Okay, I just want to make a video about the Bible verse of Matthew 7:21 to 23. I wanted to use the King James version of the Bible, but since for some reason the internet connection just uh, disappeared, so I'll just use the app, okay, uh, of the Bible, but it's in the New International Version, NIV. So, anyways. It's about the true and false disciples. Okay, this is actually the thing that scares me the most. Everyone has fears, right? But this is the most important thing that will happen because everything in the world is meaningless. Okay, so the only thing that matters is God. Okay, and so I think this one will um this Bible verse will you know make people be on fire for God. To do their best to seek God and for them to be saved. Okay, and God doesn't want us to be scared, but we should fear God. Okay, God is the only one we should fear in this world because He can um can send both body and soul in hell, and you don't want that to happen. So you need to follow all of His commandments. So I'm gonna read the Bible first. Okay, not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. So, this actually applies to everyone, but I'm just gonna say, there's some specific people that, talks about this, okay? Um, I'll just cite examples of two types of people that are, really, really, is, talking about this one. Um, an example of this is, about those so-called preachers, celebrity preachers, famous people who, are, well known for, quoting Bible verses, you know, and, some of these, so-called influencers, they are, they, I can't tell, okay, I don't want to judge because God told us to ever to judge others, but, you should judge righteously. But there are those people that I can't really tell if they're wolves or in sheep's clothing or not. But I do tend to stay away from them so that I will not be corrupted by them. Especially those really famous people who claim to be Christians, but are you can clearly tell that they're Freemasons. Since they're famous and loved by the entire world, they are, you know, you know, um, they're clearly, some kind of cult, part of, Freemasonry. And, um, they claim to be, I think a good example of this is those people who are so-called preachers, okay? Those, famous pastors, priests, and, stuff like that. But, they're exposed for being, a pedophile, a rapist, and a Freemason. Okay, stuff like that. So there are a lot of relationships clothing. I don't really trust every single one of this one that talks about God. Quoting Bible verses. There's only a few people that I actually trust on YouTube, and um, they claim to talk about God, preaching, but the their actions is very different, or like they're hypocrites. Their works are quite hypocritical. And okay, so also this one is like to apply to normal people. Okay, those are not rich and not poor either, just the working class. Okay, or just normal people in general. I think this also applies to them. um well, every single one is applied to this one. Okay, every single person, okay, God is talking to every single one about this one. But I'm just gonna say that there's some, based on my experience in real life, there are people who, says this, um you know says Lord, Lord, but it does they don't do the will of their Father who is in heaven, which means they don't follow the Ten Commandments or anything that God tells you. They don't, they don't have the ears to hear. They don't even take the time to read the Bible for themselves. They don't even, pray to God, and they just, use all their time to, just work, 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 play, and just do worldly things. I think that God is talking about this to these people, and there's a lot of wolves in sheep's clothing, and um, just like in the days of Noah, what will happen in the past will happen in the future, because there's a lot of people who will just keep on marrying and drinking and just do worldly things. So I think this is what God is talking about, especially to these people. And also, many will say to me on that day, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name, and in your name drive out demons, and in your name perform many miracles? So I think this is also talking about, those. I've seen a lot, of those really, really famous preachers in America, or they're exposed as being a pedophile, a rapist, and the one that, steals the donation money to the churches and stuff like that. And, they're hypocrites, okay? Um, and they say that they talk about God, they they preach, but they prophesy, and they that drive out demons. Then but God will tell to them, then I will tell them plainly, I never knew you, away from me, you evil doer. So it's actually in the NIV version of this, um yeah, I think the I think it's better to me for to read the King James version of this one, because it's the one that a lot of people prefer. But okay, my internet connection disappeared. Okay, I can't search. You know the signal here is really, I don't know, for some reason the internet connection disappeared. But anyways, I'll try to search for the King James version on my phone. So I actually made a video about this earlier, but I think I just want to make the video more, shorter and straight to the point. But anyway, so this is the King James version. Not everyone that said unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter the kingdom of heaven, but he that doeth the will of my Father which is in heaven. Many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in thy name? In thy name cast out devils, and in thy name done many works. And then I will profess unto them, I never knew you. Depart from me, ye that work iniquity. So that's actually the most scariest Bible verse. Okay, scariest thing to ever happen to a person. Where when God will um come back into this world, and then everyone will be judged according to their works, and then God will say, I don't know you, depart from me. Um, it's actually really, really scary to me. That is the most scariest thing to to ever for God to say to a person. And it's very, very scary. That's why people should take things, take God seriously. Do not mock God. You should follow God, and do His commandments. Because even if you claim to be Christian, but then your actions, you don't follow what God says, God will say this to you. Depart from me, okay? Because you are workers of iniquity. You do evil. So yeah, I do believe that people should expose some of these, a lot of these so-called preachers, okay, that are doing evil. And there's only a few, preacher, especially on YouTube online that I trust. And I do believe that when I scroll through YouTube, I search for preachers. There's a lot of them who are wolves. I think we're very much wolves in sheep's clothing. They are they're Freemasons, and they do evil things behind closed doors. And this one is also talking to them too, and also to those. I think this is a wake up call for those ordinary people, humans in real life. Who think, I'm just a normal person. I just want to live my life. I just work and then survive and stuff like that. The economy is shit, so I'm just gonna work until I die. Those types of people. Yeah, that they don't read the Bible for themselves. They don't, you know, have like a relationship with God. This one is talking to them too. So you should be, you know, uh, um, you should really, take this thing seriously. Okay. You should really, put all your time for God because we're in the last days. Okay. And some of them, they say, oh, I work, but I do give a little time of God to God. I go to the church, but they don't have an intimate relationship with God. They don't really pray. They don't really talk to God. They don't read the Bible for themselves. So yeah, I guess a lot of people are um God is talking about them in this Bible verse, and those people who just I'm not here to judge people. I don't know their life circumstances. I don't want to judge. Okay, everyone is having their battles, their struggles, either financially or any other types of problems. But people should take this thing seriously. Well, God, you should take God seriously. Okay, because we're in the end days. Okay, and you don't want God to tell this to you. Okay, it's very scary when you know um there God. It is a fact that there are people that are going to heaven and going to hell. So people should take this thing seriously. Okay, if you don't want to go to hell, you should do God's commandments. Follow the Ten Commandments. Do everything to um to live a righteous life, and also like expose evil, tell people the truth, and help other people know the truth. Okay, and bring them to God. Okay, make them know the truth and be saved through God Jesus Christ. That's what we should do. Okay, not just live this life. There's those illusions that these so-called celebrities and these influencers saying, oh, the only way to find happiness is you know being rich, and the term YOLO, you only live once, so um I should enjoy life and um just be worldly and follow these worldly things, doing these worldly things like, oh, I want to be rich, I want to be uh, these what these celebrities are influencing people. So yeah, people should be careful of that. People should not be worldly. Okay, because God will say this and it's very very scary. And so yeah, I think that's about it for this video. I just want to also read the entire Bible verse. Okay. The wise and foolish builders, therefore everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. Yeah. And the rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against the house. Yet it did not fall because it had its foundation on the rock. But everyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them into practice is like a foolish man who built his house on sand. So yeah, God says that those people who does not do, they hear, but there are some people who doesn't hear too. But there's some who hear, but they don't put into practice. They don't follow God's commandments. They don't. have any actions. They just sit there and just live their worldly life. You know, uh, he calls these people foolish. Okay, these people who built their house on a sand. They're hypocrites. Okay, he says that. But everyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them into practice is like a foolish man. So yeah, and the rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against that house, and it fell with a great crash. So when Jesus had finished saying these things, the crowds were amazed at his teaching, because he taught as one who had authority, and not as their teachers of the law. So that's such a beautiful word by God. So, anyways, my advice to people is to, read the Bible for yourself. Okay? Ask God for wisdom and discernment for you to understand these words. Okay? And if you truly love God, if you truly, worship God, you have to do everything that He says. Okay? Uh, don't listen to those, wolves in sheep's clothing preachers, and um, and you not if you listen to them and then you don't have any, personal relationship with God, you're like a foolish man. Okay? Just relies on other people to tell you how to interpret the Bible. Okay, you should ask God for wisdom and discernment for yourself. Read the Bible for yourself. Okay, and also the most important thing, do not just be hearers. Okay, you should do, uh, you know, uh, put this thing into practice. Like your actions. If you hear it, you do it. Okay. If you're here, you're a hearer. You should also a doer. Do it. Do what God tells you to do. Follow the Ten Commandments and be a righteous person. Okay, and do not be worldly and seek God with all your might. Love God and seek Him with all your love God with all your mind, with all your heart, and with all your soul. Because that's the only thing that matters in this world. The world is just fleeting, and King Solomon said that life is meaningless. The only thing that matters here is God, and the only way to salvation is through God Jesus Christ, because He said, "I am the way, the truth, the life, and no one comes to the Father except through me." Okay, so only Jesus can save you. I can't save anyone. Okay, I'm just human too, and um, they should really read the Bible for themselves. Okay, and ask God to be righteous, help you not to be tempted by the devil and these worldly things, and be a righteous person that God wants you to be. Follow the commandments. Okay. And yeah, I think that's all for this video. It's really scary if God tells you this word. When they say depart from me, you workers of iniquity. That's actually really really scary, and you will not want God to say that to you. So take this thing seriously. Okay, be urgent. Really follow God. Okay, because we're in bad times. Okay, so do good, don't do evil, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. And stop doing evil. We're in dead times. So that's all for this video. Thanks for watching.